All right, everyone, thank you guys so much for joining us for Meet Music Knoxville. It is the radio show that happens once every month where I, your host, Nick Horner, meet people that I have never met before. They're usually music people, more often than not. And when I say more often than not, I meant for the past 6 shows that we've done. And it's always fascinating because it's... I just moved to Knoxville in November, and I have the good privilege of seeing things from outsiders' eyes. And today it's really exciting because I'm also meeting someone who's relatively new to the Knoxville scene, Margherita Fava. She is Italian. She is a jazz pianist. She is studying at UT, and we're so excited to talk with her today. But before we get started, let me just say, real Knoxville music. I feel winded. I don't know why. Probably not a good sign. But anyway, real Knoxville music is supported by Union Place, Hutch and Howard Realty of Keller Williams, Raven Records and Rarities. Thank you guys so much for supporting the station. This does not happen without you, and this is a community experience that is worth having. So, again, thank you guys so much for your support. And now we're going to dive into some conversation. Margherita, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So I found you through, of all things, Facebook. Of course, that's how it works.
Sometimes I guess we're living in the 21st century.
Yep. And I noticed you were a jazz pianist, which is great because I have a background in jazz. I noticed that you did your undergrad at Michigan.
Michigan State, yes.
Which is great. I used to live in Michigan,
so
really? I figured we had that to talk about. And also, when I was in New York, I played with, I'm going to say, I think it was only 2, but to me that was a lot. I played with these 2 guys who were Israeli-Italian jazz musicians that were in the Berkeley scene, and I ended up hanging out with them a lot in my time in town and before they left. And so I figured these both might be points of departure of conversation for this today. Absolutely. But before we get started, talk to me about this. Where are you from?
So originally I'm from a very tiny town. Actually, some people would call it a village in the northeast of Italy. Sort of, I guess the biggest city, not too far from where I'm actually from, would be Venice or Vicenza for some people that know a little bit more about that area. The actual town is called Follina, and it's really small. I think downtown includes 1,500 people, something like that. So very small, and it's surrounded by vineyards. So actually, you might be familiar with that area if you like the wine Prosecco, because that's where that wine is made.
Oh, got it. Got it.
I mean, maybe not the cheapest one, but if you're some upscale Prosecco, look at where it comes from, and those are my area. That's my area.
Wow.
And so I lived there most of my life, and I moved to the U.S. to go to college. So I guess this is my 5th year in this country.
Got it. At Michigan, as
and Michigan. Yeah, Michigan was the first, place I ended up going to. Lansing specifically, where Michigan State is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like an hour and a half from Detroit.
Oh, you're in Lansing.
Yes.
I was thinking Ann Arbor, which is University of Michigan. You went to Michigan State.
Yes.
Got it.
That's
okay,
very
cool.
common. That's a common mistake.
Well, it's all good. It's funny. I lived in Michigan, and because I worked at Interlochen for a year.
Oh, I see. Oh, word.
Yeah, and so it's funny that I just
all right.
Even
it happens It happens all the time. But actually, never been part of it, but I've been told there's a big rivalry between the two. Ann Arbor and Lansing. So be careful making that mistake with the wrong person, because they might take it kind of personally.
Yeah.
But
Michiganders like really like they're defensive about their state and identity,
yes,
and it
and
makes
they'll
sense.
show you the mitten.
Yep.
And they'll tell you. No,
Yeah.
wait. Oh, actually, the other.
Yeah, the mitten.
The
Folks at home, you can't see, but she's holding up her hand in the shape of a mitten.
And they show you Lansing is in the palm of your hand. Detroit is near the thumb.
Yeah. And I've been doing this for the UP. I put my hands like kind of like that. Folks at home, I'm making a gun shape.
That's right.
Yeah. So we'll dive into Michigan because that's a trip of an experience living there. Talk to me about jazz. Like, was jazz big in your village?
In Italy? Oh,
yeah.
No, actually, I can say that I'm the only jazz musician of my town.
Wow.
Because actually, I'm not the only musician of my town. Because so are my parents. So I guess we as a family, we are the only almost like the only like professional like musician family of the town.
What was that like? Like, were you guys the ones on call for like events and things like that?
Sort of. I mean, also like it gets even more specific than that because my mom only plays medieval music and my dad only plays Baroque music. So like, yeah.
Wow.
I see your face. Yeah.
No, I love that.
No, it's absolutely like very, very, very specific. So okay, I guess I can say with. I mean, I'm pretty confident about saying this. Never been very popular. Let's say that. Like, I've always been, the sort of like the outcast of the outcast of the outcast. Because already, like, doing music in a mostly like farm town, or like where like most of people like either have like or they either own a shop or they own some vineyards or both.
Mm-hmm.
Being asked as a kid, like, oh, what do your parents do?
Baroque and medieval music.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, but I mean, as a job, like, what do they really do? Or like,
so what instruments do they play?
My mom has a diploma in cello, so she started as music journey as a cellist, but she mostly plays medieval instrument that have been recreated like from sort of manuscripts and like paintings. So she plays a variety of medieval instruments and she sings. Mm-hmm. My dad is a violin player.
Got it. Gut strings.
Yeah,
lots of gut strings.
Gut
in your house.
strings,
and
different kind of temperaments and intonations. Yeah, all of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So how did you come into jazz then?
You're gonna make that face a lot as you talk.
No, it's great. No, keep it going. Folks at home, I'm making a perplexed face, but an intrigued face. You might be doing the same if you are aware of any of this music, and if not, hopefully this is engaging in other ways.
Yes.
Sorry, jazz.
Yeah, jazz. So I mean, of course, it wasn't a linear decision, as you can already tell, and honestly, it wasn't an early decision either, because for the longest, I wasn't even aware of this kind of music, because as a kid I wasn't really exposed to popular music as much, because at home that's what I would listen to, the music that my parents listened to. Mm-hmm. And I remember like maybe some random like albums that my mom would have in the car, like kind of Sting or the Queen or something, like, and I remember like those are the only albums I remember from my childhood, because those are the only ones that weren't classical music. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was like, oh yeah, let me be a rebel, let me listen to something that is not classical music.
Yeah.
But so that was my experience with music for as a kid growing up. Then like in high school, I mean, then I started playing classical music myself, and I chose to play the piano because I think it was a performance that I saw by this kid that actually in hindsight was playing jazz, but I didn't know what that was at the time, because it was a Claude Debussy tune called Gollywog Cakes Walk. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that piece, but that's one of the most like jazz influenced piece of classical music. I had no idea at the time. I just heard it. It sounded cool. I liked the rhythm of it. I was like, oh man, that song, I want to do that. And so I thought that was classical music. Therefore, I started studying classical music. And I did that for since I was like 10 years old, for my early teenage years. And then I started realizing that wasn't really what was for me, that I didn't like it as much as I thought. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I don't like music then. I thought maybe this is not for me. And so I stopped playing piano. And then randomly, a friend of mine, actually, like my first boyfriend at the time, was a bass player. He played electric bass. And he left his bass in my house for like a week at some point. And because, just one time I picked it up. And I started to listening to some music, like some that he would listen to, like more like rock, actually progressive rock.
Okay, like what era of
Like,
rock?
I mean, Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Got it.
Mostly
70s.
like, 70s, like British sort of progressive rock. And I would specifically like pay attention to the bass lines, or then like some funk. Like I remember he was studying What Is Hip by Tower of Power.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, and I started trying to do it myself with the bass that week that I had the bass. And that was like my first like revelation. Oh, I love this. And so I got myself a bass and I started playing electric and teaching myself how to play electric and transcribe. I didn't know I was transcribing at the time, but I started, learning music, Stevie Wonder, Master Blaster, Sir Duke, like all that stuff that was sort of like fun to play. And I went on doing that for a few years. And then one summer, I think I was 18 years old, my parents were like, oh, well, we got some money saved for the summer. Why don't you go do a seminar or like a masterclass of some kind? And they told me, you can choose between harpsichord and jazz.
Why not both, really?
I think it was a matter of like dates or whatever. And honestly, I didn't know what the word jazz meant. I was like, harpsichord, I guess. That's... I'm probably going to end up doing that because you guys do early music, so I'm probably going to end up... So I guess, I'll do harpsichord. That's what I said. But they were like, well, actually, we know tons of harpsichord players, so we can get you lessons of harpsichord for free any time of the year. So that doesn't really make sense. Go do jazz. I'm like, all right, fine, whatever. And so I did. And I ended up going to this... so like it was a week-long sort of workshop. That's how they called it, jazz workshop, near Venice, hosted by the New School, which at the time didn't mean anything to me. And not only that, but the piano teacher for the workshop was Aaron Goldberg. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's big New York raised sort of like musician, still very, very popular and accomplished. But at the time, the name meant nothing to me. So I went there, sort of like absolutely with no idea what I was going to do. There was an audition to be placed in, your combo and whatever. So you had to like play a standard. I didn't know any standard. Actually, the only tune that I still remember how to play at the time was this classical tune, this toccata by Khachaturian, like I think it's Armenian composer. So that's the only thing I knew how to play. So that's what I played, and that made like Aaron Goldberg like really. I remember he was laughing because he realized what was happening, and he told me that like, oh, I actually remember playing that piece when I was studying classical. So he sort of like, wanted to introduce me to like to what jazz was. And I remember like the first day he asked me if I knew what the tune "So What" was. I'm like, no idea. And so he told me, okay, for tomorrow learn Miles solo. Didn't really understand what he meant, but then I finally did realize what he meant. I remember I didn't have access to a piano. I didn't have headphones either on me. I just had my phone, and that was it. So I remember going back to my room and like listening to it like obsessively and trying to sing over it. And I did. I learned it for the day after. I was able to. I remember like begging them to make me go to the place of the masterclass like an hour before it would start, so I could figure it out on the piano. And I did. And after doing that, I was sold. I was like, yes, that's what I want to do.
And that's amazing. That's such a good introduction to jazz too.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, in hindsight, yes, that's sort of like how I teach now my students at UT. Like, so like go back to the records and you know.
Yep, go back to the masters and learn it by ear.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's where the music came from.
So yes, so very long explanation to your question.
No, it's fascinating. It really is. Okay, so I'm opening up my notebook now because as we talk, I will inevitably forget things that I want to ask you. So, the first thing I'm going to say, just because it comes to mind, I know I'm going to butcher his last name, Vardanupsepian. Do you know him?
Sepian?
I think that's his last name.
No, I don't.
Really beautiful. I want to say he's New York based, but one of my favorite pianists that merges the classical jazz thing.
Oh, word.
I'm gonna have to look.
Yeah, I need to look him up because I'm not familiar.
Yeah. And what was I gonna say? Oh yes. Okay. Before I forget this, how do you find your background in your parents' background?
Mm-hmm.
Really, like, do you find that stuff still leaches into sort of the way you think about piano and the way you think about music now?
I mean, I think maybe if not in a very way that is very clear to me, I'm sure it has some impact on the way I experience music, just because I know how important your introduction in those early years are.
Yeah.
In order to develop your ear and your consciousness. So I'm sure that the fact that I learned music at the beginning by singing with my mom, like canons in Latin. I'm sure, even if maybe the meaning is not clear to me at the moment, the connection between that and what I do right now is not super like clear to me. I'm sure it has some impact. It definitely, I think, affected my the way I see music. Like for me, like as growing up as a kid, so like music was a game for me, because like so like there's a long like car ride to some gig that my mom has to play, and no, I didn't have a babysitter, so I had to go with her. So like I'm bored in the car, so I want to do something. My mom is driving, so she can't really pay attention to me, so she would be like, okay, let's play like a music game. I sing this line, you gotta sing it back to me, or like are you gonna keep doing this, so like motive like this over and on, like on and on. I remember this one of the ones where like she had me sing cuckoo, sing cuckoo, sing cuckoo, like over and over and over, and she would sing her like lines over that, and like my job was like, okay, let me not lose my time, let me be like, okay, I got this, like I always like interpret it as a game growing up. And so I still very much feel that way when I'm when I'm transcribing something, when I'm making music with other people, when I'm trying to compose my own. Like it always has this game sort of aspect to it that I don't think I've lost.
That's great. Yeah. I love that. There need to be more teachers like you. Teach it like a game.
I mean, I tried to. I don't know. You have to ask some kids at UT if I'm achieving that, but I'm trying.
Now, did you teach much before UT?
Not really. Like in terms of like serious teaching, like going to having a job at the school.
Yeah.
Teaching. I don't know. I always like to. And in general, like share my knowledge with whoever is interested or whoever I'm talking to.
Mm-hmm.
So, multiple times, like during my undergrad, like if you were in a improv class or like theory class, and I know there's a bunch of stuff on the piano, and some like a bunch of good friends of mine are drummers, and so they struggle on it a little bit.
Yeah,
I always always enjoy like spending extra time with them, like so like have them understand it better and trying to make it simpler for them, or stuff like that.
That's a trip. I was trained as a vocalist, so I was the other half of that equation of people that just had no clue what the hell was going on harmonically.
I see.
Now, Tennessee,
indeed, yeah.
Mm-hmm. What? So do you? Okay. Jazz is very much community-based music.
Mm-hmm.
It's about a scene. It's about people. It's about a place. What's your people? What's your place?
Well, Knoxville is a great place to be if you're a jazz musician. I'd say like I wasn't expecting. I knew I was gonna find some sort of community, but I underestimated the potential of this city. Um, Both inside UT and outside of UT, I found like so many great musicians. Like I could name a few, but I mean, just staying within the UT sort of like community, we have Professor Keith Brown, drummer, and the actually the person that got me here in the first place was a professor that is not currently teaching anymore, but is very much present in the school, even if he's not there. Is Donald Brown, which I'm sure you heard of before.
Yeah, I think I had someone else in here, and we were talking about the fact that I'm pretty sure there could be a full like jazz band of just Brown.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, no, there are like that's
So
true.
many Browns.
It's true.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I guess people that are not familiar, like Keith Brown and Donald Brown are not related, but Donald Brown has a son named Keith Brown.
Yeah.
So that could be confusing.
They just need to do it already. I mean, I feel like it's just waiting to happen.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they have. I mean, Donald Brown is who is not familiar, is a great jazz piano player and composer, and is actually a living piece of jazz history, because he played with everybody. But I guess one of his first sort of like big gigs was playing with Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers for a long period of time. But yeah, so he has two sons that are just as great as musicians. We have Kenneth Brown, drummer, who is a good friend of mine, and I love playing with him. And then his other son, Keith Brown, as I just mentioned, he's another great piano player and composer that was raised around here, but is now moved to New York. But even outside of the UT community, we have, again, another great piano player, Tabor Gable, who was, born here, but then moved to New York. He just graduated from Juilliard like a few years ago, and has been on the scene in New York and all over the world, and just came back here recently. So again, like, I got down here, and I find like so many great piano players, and then some of my peers, like at school, Sam Adams, like I was overwhelmed by like the amount of great piano players, specifically, and rim section players. Like we got Nolan Nevels, we got Alonso, like so many, like
list.
Yeah, it's crazy, and then we got Greg Tardy at school. Like I could go on like for hours. It's that good around here.
Yeah, I'm fascinated too, just because. So that's like the scene I haven't dug into yet. Like obviously, so much of it's centered around UT.
Right.
Like what? Just because I'm curious, what are the jams that like? Or like, are there like formal jams that happen around town?
So unfortunately,
with COVID probably.
Exactly, COVID. Yeah, you don't gotta say much more than that. You just gotta say COVID. Yeah, or Rona, one of the two. So yeah, that happened. So that was that. I think one of the things that got like cut the most was really that aspect of jamming and just like sharing music, like, because. Yeah, the music community really suffered from that. But now we are starting to see
stuff come back.
Yeah, stuff come back. So I mean, in terms of jam sessions, I don't know if there's like, I'm sure there are a couple around town, but I never like go to like a main one. But what I do, I try to follow like these friends of mine, all these musicians, try to go to all their gigs, around town, and
pop up for a tune or two.
Yeah, something like that, or just like just catch up and just trying to figure out if there's a day that we are all not busy and we can get together. No, I would say maybe the closest thing to a jam session is happening at Barley's, I think the first week of the month, or at least once a month, and is led by another great musician of the area, Will Boyd.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Has Will moved?
He might.
I know they're on their way.
Yeah,
up north.
but he's not far.
Yeah.
You can still claim him as one of our own. Yeah. He'll be.
I appreciate using that as one of our own. Because that's the thing when I reached out and I actually posted on Facebook about this today. I was like, I didn't want to infringe on your identity. I didn't want to assume that you had ownership of Knoxville in that way. Well, because
I don't think I do.
well, but we all do.
Yeah,
and that's what's beautiful about this city. That's one of the things I've been blown away.
I try to give my contribution to the community, and
beautiful.
I try to give what I have, and share what I have.
Well, that's it. That's that playful thing. It's that being present.
Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah. I mean, and it's really not anybody's. I don't think there's anybody that can say, yeah, it's mine. But
in the same way, it's all of ours.
Exactly. So it's sort of like we sort of lose our individuality, and we gain our collective sort of consciousness. That's beautiful. Let's say that.
It's deep. That's funny because that segues into something, because that was about as Coltrane as it gets. Funny enough. So talk to me about this. Your jazz. What type of jazz you drawn to? Is there any type of jazz that you just don't connect with? Are you like a certain era or harmonic language or?
Being still in school, I still have very much a student approach to jazz. In a sense that there are so many records that I don't know yet that are very important for the tradition. So I'm always trying to approach this music also from a sense of learning the history and just learning what the course of this tradition has been looking like. So there's definitely I definitely am building my own taste in terms of what I like and what I don't like, but I also try to approach it in a sense of even if I don't necessarily like something, I still want to be aware of what it is, just because of the importance and the impact that it has had on other people.
Yeah, that's so scholarly.
Yeah, I know.
Do you? Is there anything in the process of finding your identity within jazz that you're immediately this is someone with whom I really connect with?
Absolutely. Well, in general, one of the reasons that I'm here in Tennessee was to get closer to Donald Brown specifically. But in general, there are a lot of piano players that were born in Tennessee, to name a few: Donald Brown, Mulgrew Miller, James Williams, but there are many others. So that I sort of started noticing that I was drawn towards the style of these piano players.
How would you define that style? Is there any particular?
Yeah, I mean, I guess they all have very personal styles. But I don't know, I feel they're not too obscure and complicated, so they still resonate with an audience that is not scholarly interested to jazz, and they have a very strong sense of rhythm, that which I'm always drawn towards. The rhythm is one of is probably the most important aspect of music in my for my own taste. That's what I'm drawn towards in whatever instrument I'm listening to. So I guess that, and also just composition style. They're all sort of very they all have very singable melodies, but at the same time they're deep. They're you can feel the tradition behind it and the knowledge that supports those decisions. By the way, I'm sorry about my accent, y'all. I'm trying.
No, it's great.
Getting thicker as I get. I'm sorry.
Do you find that happens when you are in longer conversations?
A little bit, I mean, if I'm thinking more about what I'm saying, I'm thinking less about the way I'm saying it. So yes,
Yeah.
the more complicated concepts I'm trying to convey, the thicker probably it gets. I don't know.
No, it's totally fine.
All right.
It's reading loud and clear over here, and I think in
Okay.
the cyber world it'll be fine as well. Now,
Alright.
did you start studying English from an early age?
Sort of like the European English, which is like a mix. It's like how a German person and a French person would speak English with each other. So it's not really. And in school, like we did mostly like we learned like the colors or like stuff like that, but more on the British side.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't say pants before coming here. Before coming here, I would call them trousers. Yeah. And then I got here, I started saying trousers, and everybody's like, what are you talking about? Yeah. So no, I had to like my first year here was tough.
Yeah.
Because you really realize if you know a language or not. The first time you gotta call the call center about your bill or like stuff like that, and you have to talk with the person, and they don't care if you know English or not. Like they don't. You just gotta. So like that's when you realize if you know the language or not.
Oh man.
And I didn't know it at first. But yeah, so I'd say like I learned most of it just by living here.
Sure. Well, your English is great. Just throwing it out there. I'll just gotta beef you up there. Don't be afraid to talk to people. Also. It's like,
no, I'm trying my best.
Okay, well, to launch from something you had just said about these Tennessee pianists, like composing.
Yeah.
Is that a big part of what you do?
Yeah, I guess it's becoming bigger as I go through my journey. Somebody would say.
Yeah.
Yes. I definitely. What?
Oh, sorry. No, keep going.
No.
Well, are you? I mean, I have to ask. Do you still consider yourself in like the scholarly act of composing, or are you?
No, see, that's where I distance myself from the scholar, because at that point, like, I'm at that point when I'm composing, like when it's about my music, I'm trying to bring, the me aspect more.
Sure.
Because, if somebody wants, actually, more like, I highly do that, because somebody wants to listen to Miles Davis, like don't come listen to me trying to emulate, some music in the style of that. Just go to the source and enjoy that. Like, why do I have to try and do something like, no. Mm-hmm. I don't like go to the source and really enjoy somebody that did it at 100%. So that's what the only person that I can embody 100% is myself. So that's why when it comes to my music, I really try to, I mean, of course, I'm going to have my influences, like everybody does. But I actively try to, find my voice. I know it sounds so...
Find your voice,
yeah, it sounds so, like, empty, but it's true.
No, So what are the things that you're thinking about when you're writing?
Again, like, I don't like stuff to be complicated. Mm-hmm. Because honestly, even in life, like, the beauty for me is in those things that are simple, but they are deep, like this, like you see, you understand it, like, oh, like you can see it and discover it like from immediately, but then you can also like step back a second and really like reflect on what it is and say, oh wow, like that. Like sometimes like some old sayings will be like that, like, or some proverbs or like or some stories like that. You hear the story like as a kid and like, oh, okay, well, it's a normal story, but then you go back to it. Oh, actually, I mean, I learned so much from that story though. So I try to convey that in my music as much as possible. And as I said, rhythm is very important, so I like that sort of interaction, especially like being part of a rhythm section sort of instrument. I try to integrate that. And then, I don't know, like, of course, if what I'm listening at the time also influences me. So, like, if I go, a few months, like, listening to more, like, pop music or, like, more, like, 80s music or more hard bop, depending on what I listen to. Is gonna come up.
It all feeds into that.
Yeah.
Do you write for a particular instrumentation, like traditional rhythm section, or are you reaching out with?
Well, I mean, another thing that I like to keep in mind when I write, I don't necessarily like to write compositions that are made for one ensemble and one ensemble only.
Yeah.
Like, I like the flexibility, you know, like, I like to, write a lead sheet that if I have a quartet, you know, we can play it as a quartet.
Yeah.
If I have a piano solo gig, you know, I can still make it play all the parts and make it sound good as piano solo. If I have, you know, to do a big band arrangement of it, I can still like use all the elements in the song and adapt them to a bigger ensemble, you know. So I like that flexibility, because honestly, all my favorite songs, I noticed, have that quality.
Yeah.
So I try to write music like that. But I mean, sometimes also, I don't know. For example, one very specific example, this summer, I went back to Italy after 3 years that I didn't see my family. So it was a homecoming sort of event. I had this gig at this auditorium in this other small town nearby. And they were like, yes, we give you the space and the opportunity to do a concert there. But the catch is that our town choir has to sing too. And I was like, that's weird. But
that sounds awesome, actually.
which, I mean, wait, like there's a very specific choir. It's a choir. Actually, my mom directs that choir. It's a choir made of housewives that are not trained musicians.
Yeah.
And
well, that
they
sounds
just
great for simple, you know, you talk about like
exactly. So exactly, so like the catch was like the choir has to perform a couple tunes. So mom was like, okay, well, I guess you do your concert, and then at the end of your concert we jump in and we play a couple of our tunes. And I was like, but that really doesn't make any sense. Like, it's for somebody that comes see the concert as an audience member, like that's so random, right? So I was like, well, wouldn't it be cooler if I write 2 tunes for piano and choir and we play them together? So in that case, so like all fits like as my concert, just like, you know, with 2 choir pieces in it. So I wrote 2 tunes specifically. Actually, it was a good exercise because I had to write something that had to be, you know, hopefully beautiful and easy enough to put together with 2-3 rehearsals with people that can't really read music that well. And don't really it has to have words because it's a choir, several words of it, and in English, but not too complicated because they don't know the language. And
wait,
so,
it had to be in English?
No, it didn't have to be in English, but
there was an expectation of it being
not really. Okay. It's just me, like,
yeah,
at this point, like, I think in English. Honestly, I think I express I know this might sound weird because probably you guys don't agree, but I think I express myself better in English than in Italian at this point.
Yeah.
Just because you know, I also like starting like your early 20s. I a very formative moment, and I moved here when I was like 20 years old. So like I spent most of my early 20s so like building my personality in English. So that's sort of like how I, you know, express myself. I think in English even when I was in Italy, actually. Some people complained that my Italian wasn't as good as it used to.
Yeah. Well, and that's I don't know, I've always gotten I've always found it to be a really enriching experience doing that same thing whenever it's come up. I haven't had to play with any Italian midwife or wives choirs or anything, but I don't know, there's something really beautiful about like trying to find a way to distill an idea down, you know, as complex as things may be in your head. You just have to find a way to streamline the process.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Now, what are the other, outside of jazz, pick 5 things that you think have influenced you greatly, like in like artists or bands or songs or moments.
Like outside of jazz. Okay.
Outside of jazz.
But
like
you mean still in music or in general, like in life as a whole?
Whatever, man. Life as a whole, I guess. I was thinking music.
Music.
You know.
Okay.
You
Well,
know, maybe things we might not have thought of.
Right.
What are these things? Yeah.
Well, definitely. I think we go back to those albums that were in the car that were in classical music. You know.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily pick them myself. They were just there, and most of them were there. Not even because my parents listened to them. Just they were just there. Oh, I guess somebody left it there, or like we found it in a little market. But like I remember there was this Toto album.
Toto. Oh yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Toto.
No, it's okay.
My bad. Sorry.
I'm running. I work at the School of Rock, and I'm running the Arena Rock season.
Yeah, there you go.
So I'm getting
Toto.
very familiar.
So there was there's Toto. Yeah, the Toto is something else. Toto is like the Japanese toilet. It's called Toto.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Toto. There you go. There was this Toto album. Then there was interesting enough, there was a Michelle de Guioncello cassette.
A who?
Michelle de Guioncello. She's I know it's a weird name. Probably I'm butchering it, but she's I think she's from New York. She's a I guess R&B bass player and singer that made this album in the 90s called Plantation Lullabies, and it's super cool. Like it has that 90s. You know, R&B like
production
soul,
sound, and also it's got a lot
some
of
little bit of rap, and
a
little bit of rap in it, which I didn't know what rap was at the time.
Yeah,
but I just knew it sounded cool, and that's what I like. Well, there was this other random album by this Belgian vocal quartet, I think, called Zap Mama.
Okay.
Which actually they were a little famous here in US because I think Erykah Badu toured with them at some point. But like they again rhythm, they were like sort of like making stuff a cappella.
Yeah.
But they did like I remember there was this tune that was sort of like dedicated to James Brown. Again, didn't know who James Brown was at the time.
Yeah.
But
dude, the Belgians, man.
Yeah, the Belgians.
I love the Belgian jazz and musicians that I met from that place.
Yeah, so I guess that's also part of it. And then I'm sure, the music my mom would play, you know, I still, to this day, I can remember all of it, you know. And not only the music she would play, but like just, I guess, being there for rehearsals, like being there, like seeing, like on stage with her, like just that whole experience of like being like on side with a working musician. I guess that really had an impact on me early on, and just like having to spend countless hours in old churches, you know, because that's where you play medieval music by myself, like in the dark and the cold, like you know. Sure.
And so now you are attracted to the dark and cold.
No, now I came to Tennessee, you know, in the cold, in the warmth, you know. Like enough of that.
Yeah, man, that's so good after Michigan.
Oh man, yes.
Yeah, Michigan.
Yeah, oh my God, I couldn't do it. Yeah, and one more, enough. No,
yeah, those winters are crazy.
Yeah,
and it's funny. I went to Michigan. I was in Michigan for a year before I moved to New York, and it was like I was so excited to move back east. I was like, yes, finally, we're gonna get away from this. And it was just the coldest. The coldest winter.
Yeah, it was so long. It's just like I remember, like 1 year, like it was snowing in May. Yeah, it's like, because like you got the first winter, and you got the second winter, and you got the third winter, and you got the fourth winter, and then you got the hottest summer ever. And you're like, how does it even work? Like, how can it be so cold and so hot? And
Midwest, it's the Midwest, baby.
Only one of a kind.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I just personally have to ask about this. So it's really great. Are you a Mike Patton fan? Do you know of Mike Patton? He's Mr. Bungle was one of his bands. He also was in Faith No More. He also played a lot with John Zorn. And was sort of like a big and a lot of things that were adjacent to the metal and very downtown music scene kind of stuff. He has an incredible record called Mondo Cane. Mondo Cane. Which is all old like 60s Italian pop songs. And it's amazing because he brings both that like freshness of like jazz and that like very metal kind of delivery.
And has like
With-
blends it with Italian 60s song.
Yes, yeah. Well,
Wow,
he's,
I gotta check this out.
oh no,
'cause
it's so good.
Italian 60s song is like the opposite of what you just said. Like
Well, exactly, but
it's
but
like the most like neo-melodic, like volare.
yeah, for real.
Cantare.
Yeah, and he,
Oh.
I'm trying to think what's on it. If there's anything.
Could be Il cielo in una stanza.
Yes.
Quando sei qui con me,
Yeah.
questa stanza
No,
non ha
yeah,
più
yeah, dude, it's so
pareti.
good. But it's like he brings that energy to it. So
Wow.
it's brilliant. You should check it out.
I should, yeah. Do you know what the title Mondo Cane means?
World. What's Kane?
Dog.
Oh, oh,
Dog
that's
world.
right. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what it means.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, it's an expression. So, like, you know, like, I don't know, where something really unfair happens, people will say, Mondo Cane. It's like,
Huh.
that's so unfair.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Poor dogs. They didn't do anything wrong. They're pretty fair creatures to me. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's I don't know. When I haven't spent that much time in Europe. I think I was in Spain for like 10 days. But, you know, you think about the dogs that are like living, you know, in these cities.
Maybe.
You know, it's funny. There weren't really dogs in New York. There weren't stray dogs.
No, there's many, no.
Yeah, but I feel like I did see a lot of stray dogs when I was in
In
Spain.
Look at that. No, we
You
got
know.
more like stray cats, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we got
there
a
was-
lot of those.
I don't even remember seeing that many stray cats in New York.
In New York? I
Yeah.
don't know New York. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, you got rats.
We do have those, yes. The size of cats. and dogs,
Exactly.
But,
Even bigger.
yeah. Well, cool. Let me think about this. What? I had another question, and of course I forgot to write it down. And this always happens at the end of these. If you had, you know, you're in Tennessee for another year, a couple more years?
Yeah, around about that.
Whatever.
And I mean, maybe even long. I just don't really think.
You don't think about that. You're just
Yeah, as
you're
of
in that
right-
child's like perspective.
No. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, I don't have details enough to know where I'm gonna be like 4 years from now.
Yeah.
So
Well, and if anything, COVID has taught us any plans we have,
Yep.
they're just out the door.
yep.
I mean, do you have like if you could do anything with your time here, do you want to like record a record? Do you have any ambitions that are Knoxville specific
Yeah,
in the
well,
near future? I'm just curious.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, going back to the incredible amount of musicians that are over here, there are so many people I want to play with, you know,
Yeah.
whether it's in a studio or whether it's on a gig,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a lot of collaborations that I like to do while I'm here, and just like, you know, also like go to different, like staying in Tennessee, but maybe to go to different cities that I haven't seen. Like, you know, I haven't gone to Nashville yet. I definitely want to go to Memphis too at some point, because those are also like, you know, two cities that have very strong music scenes, even beside jazz. So definitely I want to, you know, take advantage of all the resources, human and just like, you know, venues also.
Yeah.
Resources that are here in Tennessee. Definitely recording a record is on my list. Even more than one. Like, I'd like to, you know, I didn't really have a chance to get much recording experiences while I was in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of stuff set up for 2020 on that front. Like,
Of
so
course.
much. I was
Yeah.
so, yeah, and then it all went to, yeah, it all went there. So, you know, I'd definitely like to get my recording chops, you know,
Sure.
like get better at that. So that maybe like when I'm going to the studio as a band leader, you know, I know what I'm doing, you know.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole different sort of reality to be in when as a musician. So different from like your live setting or like your practice room setting or your school setting, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There are some skills to be learned about being in the studio as well. Yeah, and I mean, I'm enjoying my experience here at UT, both as a student and as a coach, like TA. So like getting to assist some younger students in their journey. That's also really, really cool. So, yeah.
Great. Well, cool. I look forward to, I mean, from everything I've heard about your approach to music, it sounds like, there's some fantastic stuff ahead of you.
I'm gonna release something pretty soon. So, yeah. Stay tuned. I'll let you guys know.
Where do we? And because I know you have a website, and I don't want to.
I do have a website, and that I need to update pretty soon. Oops. And then I have. I think I'm mostly active on Instagram as right now. But social media in general. But yeah, all this information is included in my website. So if you just go to my website, you're gonna be able to find everything else.
Margherita Fava.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Margherita, okay. My name, last name.com.
Amazing.
Yes.
Cool.
Thank you.
Well, you know what? I think we're about out of time.
Oh.
But this just flew right by.
Yes,
Thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Of course, it was a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. And to those of you out there who are still listening, thank you so much for tuning in today. Who we're going to have next month, I have no clue. I'm looking back at Chris because I don't think Chris has any clue. But that's the beauty, is that you'll tune in and you'll meet someone in the East Tennessee music scene that is going to be equally fascinating. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. Have a great day.